Consider how Vice President J.D. Vance ended Maxine Waters' 4-year political career with just 2 addresses and 11 seconds of silence. In poker, that's called revealing your hand. In politics, it's fear. We're not bad people. Those were the words of U.S. Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She told the Los Angeles Times in 2004. Reporters had asked her a question. Why did her family receive over $1 million? This money was related to her political campaigns. We're not bad people. Fast forward 22 years. It was a Thursday morning. Inside the U.S. Senate, Vice President J.D. Vance read that statement aloud to her. He read it on live television. Then, he read 2 addresses. He read 20 years of Federal Election Commission records. Then he turned to her daughter. Her daughter was taking the oath. She sat at the witness table on C-SPAN. He asked her to explain the $1.2 million. Maxine Waters had no answer. Her daughter had no answer. Senator Elizabeth Warren tried to save both of them. She was the most powerful voice in the Democratic Party on banking oversight. She objected 3 times. She suggested postponing the hearing. She challenged jurisdiction. She lost every time. It wasn't a rigged system. It was the reality of the FEC records. This is the story of a 6-word statement from 2004. It shattered a 4-year political career in a single Thursday morning. Can you believe that the American people deserve to know where their donations went? If so, hit the like button now. Every dollar is about to be read aloud. The hearing was scheduled for 10 a.m. The location was the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. It took place in room 538, Dirksen Senate Office Building. The presiding officer was Senator Tim Scott, a Republican from South Carolina. The senior member was Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts. The topic was Oversight of the Financial Services Committee, TARP Accountability, and Congressional Campaign Finance Compliance. The title was deliberately made boring. Senate hearing titles are always like that. Those who write them understand this tactic. A boring title avoids unwanted attention. It works until the cameras start rolling. By then, it's too late to leave. 2 witnesses were called. The first witness was Congresswoman Maxine Waters, a Democrat representing California's 43rd Congressional District. She is the former chair of the House Financial Services Committee and is serving her 17th term in Congress. She was subpoenaed. She did not come voluntarily. Her legal team spent 3 weeks fighting back. They tried to overturn the subpoena. They argued on grounds of jurisdiction. They claimed the Senate Banking Committee lacked authority. They said the committee could not coerce testimony from a House member. They argued that campaign finance was a House matter. Presiding Officer Scott rejected the challenge. He cited the committee's jurisdiction over TARP oversight. He cited its connection to One United Bank. A second witness was scheduled for the afternoon. It was Karen Waters. She is the Congresswoman's daughter. She runs Progressive Connections, a political consulting firm that has received over $1.2 million in payments from her mother's campaign since 2003. Karen Waters was also subpoenaed. She tried to prevent her appearance, but failed. Vice President J.D. Vance did not preside over the hearing. Senator Tim Scott did. However, the Vice President holds a specific constitutional role. According to Article 1 of the Constitution, he is the President of the Senate. He has the right to be present at any Senate proceedings. He sits in the Vice President's chair at the presiding seat. That position is slightly elevated and to the right of Presiding Officer Scott. He arrived at 9:15. He brought nothing with him. He had only a single manila document folder. He had a copy of the Los Angeles Times from the 22nd of August 2004. His staff had retrieved it from the Library of Congress the previous afternoon. Maxine Waters entered room 538 of the Dirksen Congressional Assembly at 9:54. Senator Elizabeth Warren walked to her left. Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland walked to her right. 3 Democratic representatives sat in the audience area. They were seated directly behind the witness table. They came to show solidarity. The message was clear. The Democrats intended to fight. Waters wore a red coat over her black dress. That was her power attire. She had worn this combination in every major confrontation of her 3-4-year career. She didn't look toward the podium. She didn't look at Tim Scott. She didn't look at J.D. Vance. She sat down at the witness table. She rearranged her papers. She adjusted her microphone. She waited. At 10:03, Presiding Judge Tim Scott declared the hearing open. Chairman Scott's opening remarks were brief. He read the committee's jurisdiction. He acknowledged the witnesses. He reminded everyone that testimony was given under oath. Then he identified the witness for her opening statement. Maxine Waters did not sit when she gave her opening statement. She never did. In her 34 years before Congress, she always stood. She stood when she had something to say. It was her hallmark. It was her weapon. It was a physical assertion. She wouldn't let anyone in Washington make her seem small. She placed both hands flat on the witness table. She looked directly into the C-SPAN camera. "Thank you, Chairperson. I want the minutes to record that I am here in protest. This subpoena is an abuse of power by the committee. My legal counsel advised me otherwise. It can be challenged in federal court. But I am here. Maxine Waters is not running away from fights. I have never run away from a fight. I have been in this Congress for 34 years, Chairperson. I have faced presidents. I have faced speakers of the House and committee chairmen. I have faced every Republican who has ever tried to silence a black woman for speaking the truth. Let me tell the American people what this hearing is really about. This hearing isn't about bank oversight. This hearing isn't about campaign finance. This hearing is about a Republican Party. A party that can't win by policy. A party that can't win by ideas. A party that can't win the trust of the American people. Instead, they summoned an 7-year-old black woman. They put her on trial. Her crime is 3 decades of community service. The Vice President of the United States is sitting on that platform. He's the one who wrote a book that blames the poor. He took $15 million from a Silicon Valley billionaire. He used it to buy a Senate seat. He's never walked a block in South Central Los Angeles. Not a single block, and yet he's here to lecture me. He's lecturing me about the people I served before he was born. Your Honor, I will answer your questions. But I want the American people watching to understand exactly what's happening in this room. This isn't surveillance. This is persecution. I will not be persecuted in silence. Please take my time. She sat down. In the audience area, 3 Democratic representatives applauded. Chairman Scott tapped the gavel once gently. "Audience, please refrain from showing any reaction," he said. Senator Warren wrote something in her notebook. She nodded emphatically. The cameras captured it. Maxine Waters just called the Vice President a blame man for the poor. She called him a buyer of Senate seats. She did it on C-SPAN. She did it under oath in the United States Senate. She ended with her signature phrase, "Take my time back." You'll want to see J.D. Vance's reaction. Trust me. Comment the phrase, "Take my time back," below. That catchphrase is coming back. It's coming back in a way Maxine Waters never expected. Chairman Scott spoke up. The chairman thanks the witness for his testimony. The chairman will now exercise his authority. I yield my time to the President of the Senate. Vice President Vance, you have 15 minutes for opening questions. J.D. Vance leaned forward in his vice presidential chair. He didn't stand up. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke the way he always spoke in these rooms. He spoke like a Marine reporting to his superior. "Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Congresswoman Waters, for being here today," Vance said. "I know this isn't the place you wanted to be. I want to start with something simple. I want to read 2 addresses. I won't comment on them. I'll just read them. Then I'll ask you a question. Address number 1, 549 South Lucerne Avenue, Windsor Square, Hancock Park, Los Angeles, California. This is a single-family home. It's approximately 6,000 square feet. It has 4 bedrooms. This neighborhood is sometimes described as the western edge of Hancock Park. It's near the Wilshire Country Club. It's situated between West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. The average household income in this area is approximately $147,000 per year. This property was purchased in 2004. Its current market value is between $4 and $6 million. This is taken from public real estate databases. This is your home, Congresswoman Waters. Is that correct? Waters replied, "Mr. Vice President, my residential address is irrelevant to—" Vance interrupted. "Congresswoman, is 549 South Lucerne Avenue your home? Is it?" "Yes," Waters replied. "Thank you, ma'am," Vance continued. Address number 2. I'll read a general location. I won't read a specific street address. I do this to protect the privacy of the residents. East 103rd Street in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. This street is in your district, California's District 43. The average household income in this area is about $22,000 per year. The violent crime rate is 3 times the national average. The home ownership rate is about 31%. The poverty rate is about 28%. Congresswoman Waters, you've represented this area since 1991. That's 34 years. Your home is in Hancock Park. The average income is $147,000. Your district is in Watts and South Central. The average income is $22,000. 2 addresses, the same city, the same congresswoman, a difference of $125,000 a year. I have a question, Congresswoman. In 34 years representing people at a second address, have you ever lived at that second address? Waters replied, "Mr. Vice President, the Constitution doesn't require me to live in my district. The Constitution only requires me to be a resident of the state I represent. And I am." Vance declared, "I'm not asking about the Constitution, Congresswoman. I'm asking if you've ever lived in your district. Have you?" Waters countered, "I've faithfully served my district for 34. Vance interrupted, "Congresswoman, the question isn't about your service. The question is about your address. Have you ever lived in the district you represent? Yes or no?" Silence filled the room for 3 seconds. "I live in Los Angeles, Miss Vice President," she said. "Yes, Miss Congresswoman. You live in the Los Angeles area, where the average income is $147,000. Your constituents live in an area where the average income is $22,000. I just wanted to note that in the minutes." On the podium, Senator Elizabeth Warren raised her hand. "Miss Vice President, rule point," Warren said. "A member of Congress's residential address is not within the jurisdiction of the Senate Banking Committee. I object to this line of inquiry. It is irrelevant to the stated purpose of this hearing," Vance said without turning around. "Senator Warren, I'm about to link the Miss Congresswoman's residential address to the bank records. I'll do that in about 90 seconds. I respectfully request your patience," Warren insisted. "The chairperson should rule on relevance before the vice president proceeds." Chairperson Scott replied, "The senior member's objection has been noted. The chairperson will allow the vice president to proceed." The chairperson will rule on relevance if the connection is not established. Vice President, please continue. Warren leaned back. She had done what the rules allowed. It wasn't enough. 2 addresses, the same city, the same Congresswoman, a difference of $125,000 a year, one near Beverly Hills, the other in Watts. J.D. Vance had just read both aloud on C-SPAN. Maxine Waters couldn't answer whether she had ever lived in the district she represented for 34 years. Comment on the 2 addresses below. These 2 zip codes were about to become the most famous addresses in American politics. Vance opened the manila file folder on the table. The first document inside had a yellow card. It read, 1 United. Congresswoman Waters, in 2008 you served on the House Financial Services Committee. Is that correct? Vance asked. Yes, she said. Your husband, Sidney Williams, was then a shareholder in 1 United Bank. This is a minority-owned bank based in Boston. It has branches in Los Angeles and Miami. Mr. Williams also served on the bank's board of directors from 2004 to 2008. Is that correct? Waters responded defensively. My husband's business dealings are his private affairs. Congresswoman, this is public record, Vance noted. Mr. Williams' board service and stock ownership are disclosed in your own congressional financial reports. Is the information I just provided correct? Yes, Waters confirmed. In September 2008, during the financial crisis, you contacted the Treasury Department. You arranged a meeting between Treasury officials and the National Bankers Association. They are a trade group for minority-owned banks. At that meeting, the discussion focused on one particular bank, 1 United. Within a few weeks, 1 United received $12 million in TARP bailout funds. Is that correct? That meeting was about all minority-owned banks, Waters replied. Congresswoman, the Congressional Ethics Office investigated this matter. Their report is publicly available on the House Ethics Committee website. It found, and I quote, directly, there is substantial reason to believe that you violated House ethics rules by using your position to benefit a bank in which your husband holds shares. This is not my word. This is the word of the independent Congressional Ethics Office. Is that conclusion in the report? I have been cleared of all charges, Vice President, Waters declared. The Ethics Committee voted 10-0. Congresswoman, I wasn't asking whether you were exonerated. I was asking whether the OCE found substantial reason to believe you violated ethical rules. That conclusion is in the report. It's on page 4. Is it or isn't it? That conclusion was reached, and then I was exonerated, she acknowledged. Thank you, Vance said. She was exonerated after a 3-year investigation. I accept that conclusion. I'm not saying anything to the contrary, but I want the American people to understand the timeline. Senator, it was 2008. People at the second address were losing their homes. People in Watts. People in your area. They lost their homes in the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Meanwhile, your husband was a shareholder in a bank. That bank received $12 million in taxpayer bailout money. You arranged the meeting to make that happen. She was exonerated by the Ethics Committee. The people who lost their homes weren't exonerated about their mortgages. They were evicted from their homes. Senator Warren raised his hand. Mr. Vice President, the 1 United matter has been fully investigated. The Congresswoman has been unanimously exonerated. Reopening an ethics case that was closed at the Senate Banking Committee is a waste of that committee's time. It's an insult to the witness. Vance replied, Senator Warren, you're right. She's been exonerated. I'm reading the OCE report. It's still on public record at the House Ethics Committee website. Do you want me to stop reading public government documents? Warren didn't answer. She couldn't block public records. $12 million in taxpayer relief money went to a bank. Maxine Waters' husband held shares in it. This happened while people in her area lost their homes. She was exonerated after 3 years. They were evicted. Subscribe to the channel now. You'll want to follow every dollar of this investigation. The next figure would be even worse. $1.2 million. It went to her daughter. Vance flipped to the next card in her file folder. It was marked Karen Waters, FEC. Congresswoman Waters. I want to move on to another issue now. This issue concerns your daughter, Karen Waters. It concerns her company, Progressive Connections. Federal Election Commission records are publicly available at fec.gov. According to these records, your campaign committee paid your daughter and her company. Citizens for Waters paid them a total of over $1.2 million since 2003. Is that figure correct? My daughter provided legitimate professional services to my campaign, Waters stated. Congresswoman, I'm not asking about the legality of the services, I'm asking about the money. Is $1.2 million correct? The FEC records are right in front of me. They're right in front of anyone in the U.S. who accesses fec.gov, Vance added. That amount sounds correct, Waters conceded. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to go through some specific cycles. In the 2020 election cycle, your campaign paid Karen Waters approximately $240,000. This source is FEC Records. It was reported by the Washington Free Beacon. It was independently verified by Fox News Digital. In the 2022 cycle, your campaign paid her approximately $192,000. Same source. In 2021 alone, she received $81,650 across 12 installments, all for what the records describe as bulk mail administration fees and government service. Congresswoman, bulk mail is very common in California state politics, but she was the only federal politician in the United States to run a mass mailing system. The only one. Other candidates paid for her campaign. They paid for the privilege of appearing on her confirmation letters. This included Attorney General Kamala Harris, Governor Gavin Newsom, the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. Her daughter managed the operation. Her daughter was paid. In 2004, the Los Angeles Times investigated this financial relationship. Reporters discovered that multiple members of her family had received over $1 million over 8 years. This money came from businesses and campaigns affiliated with her. When the newspaper asked for an explanation, she gave an answer. I quote directly from the 22nd of August 2004 edition of the Los Angeles Times. He picked up the newspaper from the table. It was the real newspaper, yellowed, crumpled, 22 years old. He held it up. The C-SPAN cameras could see the headline. She said, "They do their job and I do mine. We're not bad people. Congresswoman, nobody in this room calls you a bad person. I certainly wouldn't. I'm reading the FEC files. The FEC files don't use the word bad. They use numbers. The numbers say 1.2 million. Tim Scott leaned toward the microphone. Mr. Vice President, if you may. A point about personal privilege. The chair is invited to speak, Vance said. Tim Scott didn't raise his voice. He never did. His voice was that of a South Carolina man. His mother worked 16 hours a day. She was a nursing assistant. She raised him and his brother alone. I just want to put a number in context. I want the American people watching to understand. The average household income in Congresswoman Waters' district is about $22,000 a year. Her daughter received $240,000 from the campaign in just the 2020 cycle. That's equivalent to about 10.9 years of average voter household income in a single election cycle. I have no questions. I just want that number to be recorded. $1.2 million went to her daughter from campaign donors over 20 years. Meanwhile, the people she represented earned $22,000 a year. Tim Scott just did the math. Her daughter earned 10.9 years of average voter income in a single election cycle. If that math outrages you, share this video now. Send it to someone. The more Americans hear these numbers, the harder it will become. It will be harder for any politician to repeat this. Maxine Waters didn't get to where she is today through weakness. She didn't survive 34 years in Washington by collapsing at the slightest difficulty. She faced Newt Gingrich. She faced Bill O'Reilly. She faced Donald Trump on the House floor. She survived to tell the story. She won't collapse now. Chairman Scott realized she had 5 minutes to respond. She stood up, not slowly, not cautiously. She stood up like a woman who had fought her whole life. She had no intention of stopping. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Chairman, you want to talk about my daughter? Fine. Let's talk about your family. Vice President Vance, you took $15 million from Peter Thiel. He's a Silicon Valley billionaire. You used it to run for the U.S. Senate. You worked at Mithril Capital. You founded Naria Capital. Your net worth, according to your own financial statements, is about $11 million. You're married to a woman who works as a secretary for the U.S. Chief Justice. You wrote a book about your grandmother. You sold the film rights to Ron Howard. You commercialized your family, Mr. Vice President. You sold your grandmother's pain to Hollywood. You bought yourself a political career with that profit. Don't sit in that chair and lecture me about family and campaign money. She turned to face the camera. Let me say this directly to the American people. My daughter has worked on my campaigns for over 20 years. Every payment she received was documented. Every payment was legal. Every payment was for services provided. The FEC has reviewed these payments. They have never found a violation. I served the people of South Central Los Angeles for 34 years. I brought federal dollars to my area. I fought for affordable housing. I fought for fair lending. I fought for the Community Reinvestment Act. I fought for every law that protected working families from predatory banks. I did all that while Republicans tried to destroy everything I built. You want to read 2 addresses? Let me give you a third. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The address of a lawbreaker. The address of a president compromised in American history. The man Vice President Vance served. That's his residence. His non-profit organization has let down the very communities he claimed to protect. He used that failure story to write a best-selling book. He launched an $11 million political career. Congresswoman Waters has served her district for 34 years. She passed legislation. She chaired the Financial Services Commission. She fought for the Community Reinvestment Act. She fought for fair loan protections. She fought for affordable housing in discriminated communities. The Vice President has served in election office for 3 years. I respectfully suggest a witness record with a stronger voice. It is stronger than the Vice President's Manila document clip. The Democratic representatives in the audience applauded. Chairman Scott struck the gavel. Audience, please refrain from showing any attitude. Senator Van Hollen immediately followed up. Chairman, I would like to add one more point to the minutes. The mass mailing payments that the Vice President spent 40 minutes describing are legal. They are documented. They are disclosed on public FEC records. They have been reviewed by the Federal Election Commission. At no point during this hearing did the Vice President allege any law was broken. He simply described the campaign expenditures as legal. He used a tone designed to make them sound criminal. That is not oversight, Chairman. That is political theater. I propose a 15-minute adjournment so the witness can consult with their attorney. Chairman Scott responded, "The adjournment has been proposed and supported by the senior member. The committee will proceed to vote. The secretary will call names." The vote proceeded along party lines. Republican members voted no. Democratic members voted yes. The request for a postponement has been denied. The hearing will continue. Warren closed his eyes for a moment. Van Hollen put down his pen. They had deployed every procedural tool available to the minority. Objections, proposals, rule points, statements, votes, everything. Everything that the Senate committee rules allowed. It wasn't enough. Not because the system was broken, not because the majority was unfair, but because the FEC records were real. You can't postpone a fact. J.D. Vance waited until the room quieted down. He waited until Warren stopped writing. He waited until Van Hollen put down his pen. He waited until the last murmurs faded. It faded into the whirring of the ventilation system in room 538. He didn't seem defensive. He didn't seem angry. He didn't look like someone who had just been attacked by two senators. He didn't look like someone who had been attacked by a 4-year-old female senator. He looked like someone who had been waiting for this exact moment. Congresswoman, Senator Warren, Senator Van Hollen, thank you. Everything you just said about me is accurate. Every single word. I took Peter Thiel's money. I worked at Mithril Capital. I founded Naria Capital. My net worth is approximately $11 million. I was married to a woman who worked as a judge's secretary. I wrote a book about my grandmother. Ron Howard made a movie. Glenn Close played Mama. Our Ohio Renewal Organization spent too much money on consultants. It didn't spend enough on the communities it was supposed to serve. The NPR report was accurate. The nonprofit closed down. I take responsibility for that failure. It's one of the true regrets of my life. It's all true. Every word. I don't deny anything. I won't start denying it now under oath. I won't deny it in front of my colleagues and staff. My wife is watching this hearing right now. But I want to say one thing to the American people watching at home, something that has nothing to do with Congresswoman Waters or Senator Warren. I grew up in Middletown, Ohio, a population of 48,000. My mother struggled with drugs. My grandmother raised me. She hid a handgun under her pillow. The men in our neighborhood drank too much. The women learned to protect their children. I joined the Marine Corps at 18. I joined because I had no other option that looked like a future. Then I went to Ohio State thanks to the GI Act. Then I went to Yale Law School. Then I moved to San Francisco. Then I moved to Washington. I made money. I wrote a book. I became a senator. I became vice president. I left Middletown, Ohio. I was honest about leaving. I never told the people of Middletown that I still lived on their street. I never pretended my address was the same as theirs. When I came back as a guest. I wrote about it. Everyone in Middletown knows exactly where J.D. Vance lives now. They know exactly how much money J.D. Vance has. That's the difference between us. Congresswoman, I left my town and admitted it. You left your district and pretended not to. Your name appeared on the ballot in District 43 for 34 years. Your voters believed you were fighting for them from within the community. But your address is 549 South Lucerne Boulevard, Hancock Park, near the Wilshire Country Club, between West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. In a neighborhood where the average income is $147,000 a year, the average income of your constituents is $22,000. I left Middletown and admitted it. You left South Central and pretended you stayed. And the $1.2 million for your daughter is the receipt. The silence in room 538 lasted 6 seconds. Senator Warren didn't object. Senator Van Hollen didn't move. The Democrats in the audience didn't applaud. There was nothing to object to. He hadn't lied, he hadn't slandered, he had read 2 addresses and done the subtraction. I left and admitted it. She left and pretended not to. If that sentence stunned you, hit the like button again. I know you hit it at first. Hit it again. YouTube counts it. The next part of this hearing is about to get worse. J.D. Vance is about to read Maxine Waters' own words of confrontation. He's going to read a federal judge's response, a response that will shake the American legal system. Vance moved on to the next tab. It was tagged Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, April 2021. Congresswoman Waters, I want to move on to another issue. On the 17th of April 2021, you went to the Brooklyn Center in Minnesota. You weren't representing Minnesota. You represented California's 43rd District. But you went to Minnesota for the trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin. He was charged in connection with the tragic incident involving George Floyd. While at the Brooklyn Center, you spoke to a crowd of protesters. A reporter asked you what would happen if Chauvin wasn't convicted. You responded, I'm quoting directly from the publicly available video. It was broadcast on every major network that you said, "We have to stay on the streets. We have to take more action. We have to confront more. We have to make sure they know we're serious." Is that an accurate quote? Congresswoman Waters, I'm talking about peaceful confrontation. Waters began. I always. Congresswoman, is that an accurate quote? Is it or isn't it? Those are my words, and I stand by them. Thank you. The presiding judge in Derek Chauvin's trial, Judge Peter Cahill, addressed your comments. He spoke from the bench. He said, and I quote from the court transcript, that your remarks were abominable. He said that they could have given the defense a basis to appeal the verdict, potentially overturning the entire trial. A sitting federal judge, a congresswoman, said that her words could have overturned a verdict on the heartbreaking incident involving George Floyd. That's the verdict millions of Americans have been waiting for a year. That's the verdict cities across America have been bracing for. A judge said that her words could have canceled it all. Words spoken in a state she doesn't represent, to a crowd she has no authority over. And her response in a CNN interview is to say that the judge went astray. A federal judge, with 30 years of experience, a congresswoman, the judge presiding over the most important criminal trial in America, she said that he went astray because of applying the law, because of doing his job, because of protecting the integrity of a verdict. The Congresswoman, in January 2021, 3 months before her remarks in Minnesota, the Democrats accused President Trump. They accused him of inciting violence at the Capitol. Many Americans agreed with that accusation, many did not. That debate continues to this day. But she applied a standard to President Trump, the standard that speaking to a crowd can constitute incitement. This is the same standard that Justice Cahill applied to her own words. If saying a crowd marching to the Capitol is incitement, Congresswoman, then what is saying a crowd becoming more confrontational before a ruling? Senator Warren interjected. Mr. Vice President, the Congresswoman's remarks in Minnesota were fully addressed at the time. The House refused to adjudicate her. That was settled. Senator Warren. The House refused to adjudicate the Congresswoman because the Democratic majority blocked the vote. 216 Democrats voted to set aside the review resolution. That wasn't arbitration. That was protection. The voting record is public. Do you want me to read it into the minutes? Warren didn't respond. More confrontation. That's what Maxine Waters said to the protesters. One judge called it disgusting. Maxine Waters called the judge off topic. J.D. Vance just put those two statements side by side on national television. Comment on the word confrontation below. Those words are now part of the permanent record of the U.S. Senate. Chairman Scott spoke up. The chair will now call the second panel of witnesses. Miss Karen Waters, please proceed to the witness table. The room stirred. Maxine Waters had sat at the witness table in the first section. Now she moved to the front row of the audience area. This is where witnesses who have completed their testimony sit. She sat between three Democratic representatives. Karen Waters walked from the back of room 538, Dirksen, to the witness table. She was 58 years old. She wore a dark gray suit. A lawyer accompanied her. He sat behind her, just out of the camera's view. She had been on the list of public witnesses since Tuesday, exactly 72 hours, as House Rule 11 required. The clerk proceeded with the oath. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give will be true, whole truth, and nothing but truth? I swear, she replied. Miss Waters, you have 5 minutes for a prepared statement. Please proceed. Presiding Judge Scott instructed. Karen Waters read from a piece of paper. Her voice was well controlled. It was very professional. She was a woman who had run a consulting practice for 20 years. Chairperson, members of the committee. Thank you. My name is Karen Waters. I am the owner and operator of Progressive Connections, a political consulting firm based in Los Angeles, California. I have provided mass mailing management services. I have provided vote coordination services for my mother's campaign since approximately 2003. Mass mailing is a common and legal practice. My company operates in full compliance with the regulations of the Federal Election Commission. It complies with California's campaign finance laws. I am happy to answer the committee's questions. Thank you, Ms. Waters. The chairperson yields to Vice President Vance. Vance spoke softly. He didn't attack. He didn't raise his voice. He asked questions in the manner of an intelligence officer, one at a time. Closed questions, leaving no room for doubt. Miss Waters, your mother's campaign has paid you and your company approximately $1.2 million since 2003. Is that correct? Karen replied. I'll have to double-check the exact total, but it's within the range of what's been publicly reported. Thank you, Vance said. During the 2020 election cycle, your mother's campaign paid you approximately $240,000. Is that correct? That sounds correct. During the 2022 cycle, approximately $192,000. Is that correct? Approximately. Miss Waters, your mother's campaign is the only federal campaign in the United States that operates this type of mass mailing system. Is that correct? Mass mailing is very common in California at the state level. Yes. At the federal level, your mother's campaign was the only one. Is that correct? I believe so. Miss Waters, in the 2020 cycle, the average household income in your mother's area was approximately $22,000 per year. She received $240,000 from her mother's campaign in that same cycle. That's roughly 10.9 years average voter income. In a single election cycle, from fundraising, I want to make sure the American people understand that number. A family in Watts. A family her mother represented for 34 years. They would have to work for almost 11 years. They wouldn't have spent a dime on rent. No food. No medicine. That's to earn what she received in one campaign cycle. She earned that money by managing a mailing operation that no other federal politician uses. That family. The family at the second address. They donated to her mother's campaign because they believed their money would fight for them. Instead, a portion of that money went to the first address, to Hancock Park, to her mother's daughter, to her. Karen Waters looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer remained silent. Vance declared, I have no further questions. I just want that calculation recorded in the minutes. And then, A voice rang out from the front row of the audience. "Your Honor, you will not question my daughter like this. This is a disgrace. This is a witch hunt. I take my time back." Maxine Waters stood in the audience area. She pointed to the podium. "Take my time back, Mr. Chairman. Take my time back." Chairman Tim Scott looked at her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't strike the gavel. He spoke with a calm authority. He had chaired this committee for 2 years. He had never lost control of a hearing room. "Congresswoman Waters, you are no longer at the witness table. You are seated in the audience area. You don't have time to take it back." According to Senate Committee Rule 4, the chairman controls the time during testimony. "Audience members, please do not interrupt." He tapped the gavel once gently. "Take my time back." That was Maxine Waters' signature phrase. It was printed on T-shirts. It was on coffee mugs. It appeared on protest signs. This phrase defined her career and her brand. Now, it's turned against her. By the rules. By the judge. By a man who grew up in North Charleston, South Carolina. He's the son of a nursing assistant who worked 16 hours a day. Maxine Waters stood for 3 more seconds. Then she sat down. She said no more. She didn't have time to recover. Those 8 words came from Judge Tim Scott. They turned Maxine Waters' most famous catchphrase into the most devastating moment of her 3-4-year career. She was in the audience. She wasn't on the podium. She didn't have time to recover. The woman she was trying to defend was her own daughter. She was sitting at the witness table under oath. The campaign's $1.2 million was on public record. Turn on notifications now. What J.D. Vance said in the next 3 minutes would be the last thing Maxine Waters heard in this building. "Mr. Vice President, you have 3 minutes," Chairman Scott announced. "Thank you, Chairman. I have one last question," Vance began. "Not for Karen Waters, for Congresswoman Waters. I understand she's no longer on the podium, so I'll address it on the minutes. She may choose to answer from the audience or not. That's her prerogative." He set down the manila file folder. He set down the Los Angeles Times. He clasped his hands together. Congresswoman Waters has represented the people of South Central Los Angeles for 34 years. She has served on the Financial Services Committee. She has chaired the Financial Services Committee. She has been one of the most powerful members of the U.S. Congress for 3 decades. In those 34 years, the poverty rate in her district has not decreased significantly. The violent crime rate has not decreased. The home ownership rate has not increased. The average household income remains at approximately $22,000 per year. This is the lowest of any electoral district in the United States. In those same 34 years, her family received over $1 million from her campaign. She lived in a mansion worth between $4 and $6 million. It was located in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Her husband sat on the board of a bank that received $12 million in bailout funds. She traveled to Minnesota, a state she didn't represent. She told the protesters to confront more. "I have a question, Congresswoman, just one question. In 34 years, representing the people of South Central Los Angeles, can you name one thing in your district that has gotten better?" The question fell on Dirksen Room 538, like a stone thrown into water. There was no loud noise, only a ripple. Maxine Waters sat in the front row of the audience. Her hands rested on her lap. Her red coat remained buttoned. Her mouth was tightly shut. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 seconds of silence on C-SPAN. 11 seconds. She was the most outspoken woman in the U.S. Congress. She had never been short of words in 34 years. Her entire political identity was built on the volume of her voice. Now she couldn't think of anything to say. She didn't respond. J.D. Vance waited the full 11 seconds. He didn't fill the silence. He let it linger. He let it settle in the room. It felt like the silence in a Middletown, Ohio house. The silence when there was nothing left to say. Then he quietly said, "Let the minutes record that the witness did not respond. Your Honor, I yield my time." Presiding Judge Tim Scott struck the gavel once. All testimony and documentation submitted today will be included in the formal hearing record. This hearing is over. The gavel struck decisively. 11 seconds. 11 seconds of silence on C-SPAN. J.D. Vance asked Maxine Waters to name one thing. Just one thing that had gotten better in her district in 34 years. For 11 seconds, the woman who never lacked words couldn't think of anything to say. Share this moment. Share it now. Send it to every American who ever wondered what their representatives actually did. Somewhere in the Russell Senate office building at 4:47 p.m. that day, Senator Elizabeth Warren sat alone. She had objected 3 times. She had requested a postponement. She had challenged jurisdiction. She had done everything the Senate minority rules allowed her to do. It wasn't enough. Her chief of staff knocked and entered. "Senator, do you need me to get anything?" Warren took off her glasses. She placed them on the table. "The FEC records are real. Every address he read out is real. Every amount he cited is verifiable. You can't object to a zip code. You can't veto a fact." She put her glasses back on. "Get me the draft of the financial transparency bill. I want it on the Banking Committee's agenda Monday morning. If we lose a hearing like this, we lose while building something to stop the next one." Somewhere in the Vice President's office, J.D. Vance called his wife Usha. She was at the Naval Observatory. She was there with their 3 children. "How did it go?" she asked. "I read out 2 addresses," he replied. Usha paused. "That's all?" "Always just that. 2 addresses and the facts. The kids want to know if you're coming home for dinner. Tell them I'll be there before 6:30. I have another vote at 5:15. He hung up. He walked to the Senate floor. He presided over the 5:15 vote. He didn't vote to break the deadlock. He walked back to his office. He picked up his coat. He picked up his manila file folder. He picked up the two-year-old copy of the newspaper. He drove home. He had dinner with his family. His eldest son, Ewan, asked him what he had done at work that day. He replied, "I read some numbers aloud." The Marines finished what they had started. The vice presidents went home to their families. Somewhere on East 103rd Street in Watts, Los Angeles, California. It was 7:18 p.m. Pacific Time. An 3-year-old woman sat on her porch. She sat in a plastic chair. She had lived on this street for 29 years. She had voted for Maxine Waters in every election since 1994. Her granddaughter called her at 5:00. She told her to watch something on YouTube. She watched it on her old iPad. It was propped up in a cup on the kitchen counter. She watched the whole thing. 2 hours and 14 minutes. She didn't fast forward once. When it finished, she went out onto the porch and sat down. The streetlights at the end of her street had been off for 3 months. She had called the city twice about it. No one had come. She hadn't said anything to her granddaughter about the hearing. She just sat there on the plastic chair. She looked toward the end of the dark street she had looked at for 29 years. She thought of a mansion near Beverly Hills she had never seen. She would never see it. She thought of a congresswoman who had never knocked on her door. After a while, she went inside. She turned off her iPad. She went to bed. Tomorrow was Friday. She had an appointment with her doctor at the free clinic. She'd been waiting 6 weeks for it. It was the only clinic in her zip code that accepted insurance. 549 South Lucerne Avenue was 11 miles away. It could be on the moon, too. Within 72 hours, the House Ethics Committee had released a preliminary review. They had examined Karen Waters' mass letter payments. They specifically investigated whether the practice violated the law. Within a week, 3 California state politicians had quietly requested refunds. They wanted to get back previously paid confirmation fees. Within a month, the FEC announced it would conduct a routine audit. It targeted the Waters Campaign Committee. This was the first such audit in the campaign's 3-4-year history. Kamala Harris's office declined to comment on the $33,000 her campaign paid for mass mailings. Gavin Newsom's office issued a one-sentence statement. The governor does not comment on federal campaign finance procedures. Karen Waters' consulting firm did not file any new FEC disbursement reports for the remainder of the 2026 cycle. Maxine Waters completed her 17th term in Congress on the 3rd of January 2027. She did not seek an 18th term. She did not hold a farewell press conference. She did not give a speech on the House floor. She released a 4-sentence written statement. The statement thanked the people of South Central Los Angeles for 34 years of trust. She said she was going home to 549 South Lucerne Avenue. That's the house she bought in 2004. The house is near the Wilshire Country Club. The house is in Hancock Park. It's 11 miles from the area she represented for 34 years. If you've watched this far, thank you. All the facts in this video are on public records. FEC records are at fec.gov. The Los Angeles Times investigation is from August 2004. The Congressional Ethics Office report is about One United Bank. The $12 million TARP relief payment. Karen Waters' payment history. Remarks at the Brooklyn Center in 2021 and Judge Cahill's rebuke. The publicly recorded location of 549 South Lucerne Avenue. Census data for California's 43rd Congressional District. Everything. 5 minutes. A phone. Any American. 3 things before you go. 1. Hit that like button one last time. YouTube will show this video to more Americans the more you do. The more Americans hear those 2 addresses read aloud, the harder things will get. Any politician will struggle to live in Hancock Park, while their voters live in Watts. 2. Comment the phrase 2 addresses below. After today, those 2 words have a meaning they never had before. I read every comment. The top comments will be pinned. 3. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week, there will be another hearing. Another politician. Another fact lying clearly on a government website. It's waiting for someone to read it aloud. God bless the woman on East 103rd Street. God bless every American like her. They waited 29 years for a streetlight. They waited 34 years for a representative who lived in the same zip code. God bless Tim Scott's mother in North Charleston. She earned $41,000 a year and raised a U.S. senator. God bless Mama Vance. She never earned $30,000 in a year of her life. Her grandson just read 2 addresses on C-SPAN. They will be studied in political science courses for the next 50 years. The hearing is over. The street light on East 103rd Street remains off. But the lights in Dirksen Room 538 are on. The truth is out there. All the truth. Every dollar. Every address. Every record is on public record, where it belongs. As the last lights dim in the corridors of power, what is the true price we pay for a system where silence speaks louder than 3 decades of promises?